Hello, in this screencast, I'm going to be talking about drawing the lowercase letter s. Now, the letter s is a scary letter, I understand, in terms of drawing it. It scares a lot of people, but it's actually not so bad. I'm going to show you a really good technique for drawing it, and it'll be a kind of way that reduces that kind of anxiety. So I've got my glyph, my drawing window open here. You notice that once again I work on typefaces in this kind of context of a thread of letters. And once I can start building actual text, that's the ultimate thing because that's where really the space I want to be designing in. But with the letter S, what I would do for this character is in particular, I want to put the S probably between like two N's or two O's. You've probably drawn these characters by the time you get to the letter S. And what I'm going to do is type the S in there, the glyph for the S. Now the thing about a lowercase s, I'm going to quickly open a font. We're going to have to go into the directory. And this won't take long. I'm going to open a font that I think shows a good example of a letter S. I've shown you this font quite a few times. Because the S has a certain set of proportions that are ideal for its form. And yeah. Okay, so this letter S, I would say, has a pretty good set of proportions. And in particular, what you need to notice about a lowercase or capital S, they're both the same, is that you need the top to appear to be a little bit smaller than the bottom. And in fact, what you notice about this S in particular is that it appears that it's pretty balanced overall. If you look at it small in particular here in the knockout, or if I make it a bit smaller, you notice that the top and the bottom, the counter spaces are more or less, they feel pretty even. Some S's are a little bit different. Some S's show you they'll have a lot more counter space on the bottom than they do on the top. And that's fine. But really, no matter what you do, you do need the S to feel like it has stability on the baseline. So it needs to be a bit wider on the bottom area of the character, this lower half of the character, than the top half. So if I actually take some measurement lines and measure this shape, notice what you see here. The bottom, and let me just move this over a bit. The bottom of the S is wider than the top on both left and right sides of the character. So you notice I've got this guideline here right at the edge of the bottom termination of S, and at the part of the spine curve where it's starting to transition down in the bottom portion. If you look up at the top, in relation to that, the top is actually a lot narrower on this side. And this is pretty common, because if I actually have this S doing something like this, where it's even, it looks like it's going to tip over to the right, and then we don't want that. So let me go back. So this would be a kind of ideal proportion. We want these counters to be more or less balanced. It does depend on your design. Sometimes this counter can appear very noticeably smaller than this one, but this always has to be wider than the top. So let's go into this file. Now when drawing the S, there are a few ways to do this. So this is going to be a serif S. If you're drawing a sans serif S like you saw in the other typeface I was showing you there previously, that's a sans serif S, but the same basic idea applies to that. And once again, a great tip for drawing any typographic letter form is checking out examples of other typefaces and just seeing how they do it. So for instance, if you want to know how a typical serif S is constructed, you can take a look at other serif typefaces that are similar in structure to yours. So for this one, we're going to have a design where there needs to be serifs on the top and the bottom, the terminations, and there'll be a stroke through the center, and then there has to be modulation. And because in this typeface I do not yet, I believe, we do not yet have a C, which would give us a terminal, we're going to make one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this branch. And I'm going to put it here, and then I'm going to rotate this shape, and I'm going to flip it. And we haven't figured out what that terminal is going to look like. This letter will give us a chance. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this shape here, and I'm going to go with a design that doesn't have something quite so heavy on the top. I'm not sure what this is going to look like yet, but I don't want it to look like that. So I've got this top half. And you notice with this shape, just like a lot of other shapes that you've seen me build throughout these tutorials, I'm building it up based on parts. So I have a vision of the letter in my mind, or I have a sketch on a piece of paper like we did in some of the beginning videos. And then I am, building this as a part of the pattern of the whole typeface. Now I do have some things that are helpful. I have the O, which tells me how thick should the spine be generally, and how thick should this curve be. And in fact, a great thing to do is actually use the O to start. Now the way to drawing the S is, the best way to draw it, is to draw one half of it first, so like top quarter, or even like the top half of the spine, this area, and then you reflect it to the bottom and make some adjustments. It's a very easy way to do it, and then you obviously shape it to look right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the O in here, and I'm going to start cutting it. And I'm going to actually do this, where I cut the O, like this, and okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to move this up into the top area, and I'm going to leave it this thick for now, but actually, you know what, it usually has to get a bit thinner. I'm going to move these handlebars down, and I'm going to get this up into the middle area, and it's going to have to get narrower. This is where type design becomes a kind of sculptural process. And what I want is the spine to be about the thickness of this area of the O. It might even have to be a little bit thicker for the S, but we can't tell until we actually get the shape in there. And I probably want these to be in similar angles. Okay, so then what I do is I take these and I'm gonna, oh, well, when you hit the delete button instead of the plus button, that's what happens. I'm gonna line this up. And I'm going to merge, Command R, because it remembered remove overlap. And I'm going to hold down Option, and I'm setting handlebars. And what I'm going to do for the S is I'm going to actually line up these points for now. I know that on the O that we had them juxtaposed on top and bottom of the contour, but we're not going to do that for this character because we don't have that same modulation structure on this character. Okay. Alright, that's looking like it belongs with the set so far, that terminal. And we'll probably have to make this terminal a bit smaller, and maybe something like that. And even something like that. Okay. It's not going to be perfect in this video, but this is just to get us going here. And, okay. So now we're getting something that we feel, it's looking pretty good in terms of just getting into the right feeling for this typeface design. And I want this spine area to be about in the middle of the character. And okay. I think it's still going to need some finessing. I'm going to move this up. Okay. And whoops, my bad. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy and paste, and it's pasted it in place, and then I'm reflecting it in both directions to the bottom, and I'm making sure it's at the undershoot that I set up in the overshoot. It's not perfect right here, but that's fine because now what I can do is I can move these shapes around so that they fit relatively in the right spot, and I can adjust these shapes. Right now I think that this S is too wide. It's not working that well. And also you'll notice that it's a pure reflection, so we haven't got that balance that we need optically. And let's not make this so open with the side bearings because I want to be able to see things like that. Okay. Based on this shape though, I think that the S is probably about wide enough. And also I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think that looks a little bit better. Okay, for now, let's just leave this. Sometimes what you'll see too is that on an S, this terminal will kind of stick out, pointing this way to the left a little bit more, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is merge this shape now, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these 2 points. And you're going to think, oh my god, what happened? But that's fine, because what I want to do, and in fact the best thing is to Command J, make a mask, then delete these points. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these handlebars, and I'm not going to try to change them if I can, and I'm going to move them back and forth like this. Now it looks kind of weird, but you're going to follow the mask, and you're going to use these handles here to shape the spine. Now the benefit to doing this is that you allow yourself to get a smooth spine curve without having the interference of a point somewhere on there. You might need to add this point at the end, but it's better to shape that area first, then add the point. It works a lot better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this top terminal and I'm going to move it in a bit. We're already getting something that works better, and I'm going to move this in about 10 units. I think that's too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right now I think this feels like it's actually sticking out a little too far. I'm going to move it up. And I actually want this to curve up just a bit more. I think it is too flat. I'm going to add some curve to that S. Okay. So then I look at it, and how is it looking with the other parts? Now the S should be, it definitely should not be wider than the N or the O. And I think even right now it's probably, it's not at a, it's a pretty good width right now overall. It could even stand to be overall a little bit narrower, I think. But once again, these kind of decisions, you can't make them too concretely until you see these letters performing in a pattern of text, in language. So I went 5 on that side. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that side. That's pretty good, I think. All right, now I might try some other things. Like one thing that I find funny about this S at the moment, I know I have these sheared angles on the serifs of the N, but I find it a little bit funny that the terminals are not flat. Although that is in keeping with the method of the design, the kind of shape behavior, but I think that actually feels better because it is a vertical, it's a very narrow kind of shape. It has a diagonal element to it. I think this would probably be better. One thing you can do is something like this though. One side having that cut. Let's just leave it like that for now. Okay. And of course we can refine these curves, but I'm not going to really refine things too carefully on this area. But one thing that you do want to refine on this letter S is you want, in particular, this spine right now, I think this area is working quite well. This is a little cramped. And to solve that, what I'm going to do, I can do 2 things. I can move this up, and that fixes the curve a little bit more. Or move this over, and that over. That's better. Okay. And I think this is working pretty well, this area. I think this needs to be a little bit heavier. Basically in an old style letter form that could go from anything from like a Renaissance letter, a neoclassical letter, etc. You want the weight to be here start to really get thick here, and then it stays thick in here, thick here, and then it gets quite thin in this area, and then more weight is added to the serif area. Another thing we could do with this shape is have a serif more like this. And we can experiment with this because we don't really know what we've decided to do yet for things like C. And this is kind of in keeping, if we did this on both sides, this is kind of in keeping with what our N is doing. On the outside it's sharp, has a sharp behavior of curve, but I don't know. I kind of like the sharp one. We're going to keep it for now. We don't have to make a crazy design decision today on this character or anything concrete. This is just to show you guys how to draw the S. Okay, now, but one thing you notice here is that I personally think that this curve isn't very smooth in accordance with how this is behaving. And so what we need to do is we need to move around these handlebars. Now, one thing you can do is you can move this up, and we get a better curve here, but it starts to make this relationship of counter too large. So I'm going to move this down, and as I'm moving this down, then I have to compensate and move these strokes up. And I'm going to have to move these down a little bit. But now we're really starting to get something that I think is working well as an S. Okay, that's your letter S. It would just be some refinement.